Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. We have the entire trio back for the first time of season 5 tonight. Andrew, Jason, Joe, welcome everybody. This is episode 143, and tonight we will be doing the preview for both the AL and the NL West. Tonight we, instead of doing 6 mini episodes, we're just going to do 3 bigger episodes and do the AL and NL at the same time this year because schedules kind of got crunched this year just with life, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So, guys, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm ready for baseball to be back. I tell you what.
Yeah, football. I was ready for football to be done. About when were the Vikings eliminated? Yeah, about 4 weeks ago. Yeah, about that is when I was done with football. How about you, Joe?
Yeah, hanging in there, man. Just kind of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Glad baseball is closer and closer.
Oh yeah. Well, once spring training starts, it's like even though we have some more snow forecasted to come this week and maybe next week, you can finally feel like spring is getting ready to get here, and it's exciting. I can't wait. It's going to be a good season. I got a feeling already. If I can manage to not have 2/3 of my team on the IL this year. All right, let's roll into it.
And it starts already.
Of course. Dude, I'm expecting a bloodbath, but we'll get to that in a couple weeks. The East is going to be a gauntlet this year, but we're talking about the West today. Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
From Athletic Brewing, I'm drinking their light NA. Athletic is really neat. They have a ton of selection when it comes to NA stuff.
That's awesome.
It's really neat. And they always have like new stuff every week or so at like Effort a Beverage there on a 272. They have new athletic like options all the time. So
nice.
That's awesome. I'd love to see more breweries getting into the NA option because it seems like in the younger demographics, more and more people are opting to go towards either, mocktails, non-alcoholic beers. So it's good to see the breweries realizing the change and shift in the market and, giving better options. Let's remember when we were young, it was O'Doul's. And O'Doul's should be used for pressure washing your car, not drinking. So it's good to see like that they're actual good tasting, like they still taste like beer, but they're non-alcoholic options. And my mother-in-law is a recovering alcoholic, and I love that. If we go out and she wants to have an NA beer, a lot of restaurants around here have NA beers available, so it's a great option. How about you, Jason?
So tonight I am going with one that I only recently saw. It's by Rusty Rail Brewing, and it's called Swish. It is a Swedish fish-inspired sour ale. Basically, it was brewed with, it says gummy fish, so I'm guessing they can't use the term due to trademarks. But
of course,
it was brewed with Swedish fish, cranberry, raspberry, vanilla, and other flavors. So it's a really good, flavorful sour.
The crazy thing is you probably think you have the most unique flavored beer tonight. I actually have that beaten. From Distill Brewery, I have the Sucker Punch, the Dill Pickle Sour. And because I'm one of those weirdos that actually enjoys drinking the pickle brine from dill pickles after I'm done eating the jar of them, I actually like it. I don't think most people would. Jason, if I manage to not kill the 4-pack, I'll save one for you, and you can give me one of those Swedish fish sours in exchange. it's really
that sounds like a deal to me. I do also have at some point coming up from North Carolina a Cheerwine Ale Holiday Punch Ale, which has like pineapple and whatnot. So.
Oh, let's go. God, I wish Cheerwine was sold up here.
I know.
So bad. All right, guys, let's roll into it. The major deals since we were on last. Pirates got Adam Frazier, 1 year, 5.25. The Dodgers continued to be the fucking Dodgers. Kirby Yates, 1 year, 13. And that was right after they got Tanner Scott for some ridiculous amount. Just assume, unless I say otherwise, that a Dodgers deal includes deferred money because they pretty much all do. The Blue Jays grabbed Max Scherzer, 1 year, 15.5. I was a little surprised Scherzer got 15.5. I thought he was going to top out around like the 12 to 14, maybe 14.5 range. you saw Verlander go to San Francisco. What do you think about Scherzer in Toronto? I mean, Toronto's doing everything they can to say, Vlad, we want you here. We're going to build around it because let's remember he's a free agent next year. So they're doing everything they can to keep him. I know Scherzer's not what we saw back in 2019 when the Nationals won a World Series. And he didn't pitch much last year because he was hurt. Do you think there's going to be enough in the tank for Mad Max to put one more year of magic together? Because at this point, he's chasing the all-time record books.
No. And I don't think if you're saying, hey, we want our good players to stay with us, I don't think signing a washed up starter is the way you instill that confidence in your younger players. So this is not going to be nearly enough.
I tried to get through that whole thing with a straight face, not laugh too much at the deal, but who the hell pays Max Scherzer $15.5 million at this point in his career? That's insane.
Like I heard rumors that it was that the Phils were potentially in. I'm like, they better not. I'm like, there's absolutely no need, and he's not going to even play. I mean, he's essentially becoming the Mike Trout of pitchers. So, I mean, great in
except
his prime.
he changes teams.
Yeah. Great in his prime. Like, if he can stay healthy, he can have a very, very good year. But he's not going to be coming back from the injury and dominating like you saw Chris Sale do it. He's
what, 13 years younger, maybe not that much younger, but 1,000, 1,500 less innings on his arm. That was a much safer deal to believe in than this one is.
Yeah. I mean, it's only 1 year. So, I mean, again, if you're trying to say, hey, we're going to make sure we're competing and winning for you, why 1 year? If you want him to stay beyond this 1 year, why 1 year? Go out and get a pitcher that's going to be with the team for a few years.
I think he still thinks he can pull 20 million plus like he did from the Mets. I think he still honestly believes he could get himself back to that level, which to me is utter insanity. There's no way he ever sees 20 million a year again.
Well, no, and that's not from, I didn't mean that from a Max Scherzer standpoint. I meant from a Blue Jays standpoint. You're trying to tell your players, hey, we know you're a free agent at the end of this year, so we're going to try and show you that we're serious about our future. And then you sign a pitcher to a 1 year deal.
Yeah,
pitcher may not be back after this 1 year.
Pitcher who made 9 starts and pitched 43 in the third innings last year, 2 and 4. Oh man. Then the Tigers, because the Tigers are known for reunions. Jack Flaherty is back, 2 years, $35 million. Opt-out after this year is available for the player side. But next year, if he makes 15 starts, jumps from 10 to 20 million. So the deal could actually top out at 2 years, $45 million. So we'll see how that goes. I actually don't mind that deal. I think that was it. He earned himself a deal like that coming off injury. Kike Hernandez back with the Dodgers, 1 year, 6.5. Can I also say 1 year deals, you should not be allowed to defer money on a 1 year deal. Come on. That's bullshit.
Especially being only 6.5.
Yeah. That one actually might not be deferred at all. He might be at the point in his career where he just wants the money and be gone, but who knows? The Mets re-signed Pete Alonso, 2 years, $54 million, a player option after 25. So he previously rejected a 7-year, $158 million deal. I think that was 2 years ago. The Mets offered that to him. And during this offseason, he rejected the 3-year deal for $70 million. He wanted more upfront and he wanted the flexibility in the options. And I don't know about you guys. That's a lot of money to leave on the table. I know he's betting on himself to have a bounce back year, but he did not play very well last year compared to his career norms. I thought he was nuts saying no to 7 years, $158 million a couple of years ago, but it feels like 2 years, 54. I mean, you look at his WAR, he went from a 5.5, 4, 4.5, 5.5 WAR player 2019 through 2022, and it's been downhill 3.2 in 23 and 2.6 last year, despite playing every game. It was not a good year last year for Alonso. He slashed slightly better than 23, but the power was down. Everything was down across the board for him last year. And let's be real, as we pointed out on the last episode, the Mets are basically bidding with themselves, and Boris realized that because Christian Walker signed much earlier, and there really weren't many teams that had a need for a guy that is first base now, but let's be realistic, he's probably going to be a full-time DH in the next couple of years. His defense is not great, and his speed has gotten progressively worse since he broke into the league at 24. So,
yeah,
it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Now, it might also help with Juan Soto in the lineup this year. There's more protection for Pete, so we might see a better rebound with the numbers having a better lineup around him. So we'll have to see. Dodgers re-signed Clayton Kershaw in the least surprising move of the entire offseason, because if I ever see Clayton Kershaw sign anywhere that's not with the Los Angeles Dodgers, that's probably one of the signs of the apocalypse being forthcoming. So get your bomb shelter ready and get it fully stocked with enough food for about 3 years, because that's what's happening if Clayton Kershaw does anything but sign with the Dodgers or retire. I do know he will be out for at least the first 2 months. So, same as last year. They'll see what they get in the back end of that. And then the last big free agent, Alex Bregman, signed with the Red Sox, 3 years, $120 million. Some notable offers that he declined. The Tigers offered him 6 years, $171.5 with an opt-out after 26. The Cubs offered 4 years, $120, opt-outs after 26 and 27. This was an interesting pick because he doesn't truly have a spot up in Boston, because Rafa Devers straight up said, no, third base is my position. It's what I play. I don't know what their plans are. We had a conversation. I made it clear on what my desires were. Whatever happens from here, I don't know. So that, surprise, that one, I didn't see the Red Sox coming in this one, guys. I really thought it was between the Tigers and the Cubs and the Astros.
His secondary spot is second, and they haven't had a solid second baseman since Pedroia retired. So that's a huge need for them, huge hole to fill for them. I'm sure we'll talk more about that in a few weeks, but I mean that's probably where he'll end up, if I had to guess.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Yeah. I'm curious to know. I want to get Joe's thoughts on the Cubs not landing him, because I know we always talk about the belly money and all this stuff, when it seems like the Cubs could have spent and done even more to try and lure him to Wrigley. So I'm just curious, Joe, on your thoughts with that whole thing.
I mean, I've kind of resigned myself to the Cubs are going to do what the Cubs are going to do, and I may not like it, but that's the way it is. That's I guess the cynical take, I guess. I mean, knowing that Nico is recovering from surgery, and you're basically going to bet to not, pardon the pun, but you're going to bet the farm on third base. Mm-hmm. You haven't had a strong third baseman since KB left. So, I mean, it's ironic that you had third base and first base with KB and Rizzo, and you haven't had a lock in that position since they left, other than first base now with Michael Busch. So, they have a ton of other depth, and we'll see if they move some pieces around with Nico kind of still recovering, and then I told you guys today, Shaw's got some minor oblique issue or something. So, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me not to do it, but the only other option you have is you have Triantos in AAA, who, he's on the 40-man. He could come up and make a difference there, get a shot at one of the infield spots. There's also a first baseman / DH who's still sitting out there as a free agent, and reunions are nice. So that's another option too with bringing Rizzo back, if that's in the cards. I don't know. But I'm not shocked they didn't do it. I think I'm more disappointed with the fact that the money was close enough. Like
Yeah.
if the money had been light years past what the Cubs offered, I've been like, okay, fine. You got in a bidding war and lost. But to be that close on the money, on the total money, and not make the adjustments for the AAV made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Jason, I remember when you and I were talking about when you and I were talking towards the end of last year. Bregman was actually a long shot target you had kind of were hoping Philadelphia would look at, with the possibility of then using Alec Boehm as trade bait to fill some other holes.
Yeah.
Did you hear, were the Phillies ever in on the talks with Bregman towards the end, or did they drop out pretty early?
From what I saw, they dropped out pretty early. They pretty much squashed the rumors not long into free agency. I mean, it doesn't mean anything if they say, no, we're not going to do this.
Right.
Because sometimes that could just be a play in itself. But they pretty much said that they were going to stick with Boehm for the time being because one, he is under team control for a while. He's in his arbitration years, things like that. And I think from a spending point, they decided that they spent enough. Now, do I agree with them in their decision to not pursue it? Not really, because I mean you're rolling into 2025 with essentially the same lineup, except you're going to be trading out Austin Hayes and like Johan / Brandon Marsh for some Max Kepler, who's also a little bit past his prime now in left field. Now, Kepler may be able to do well in a new place, smaller ballpark, things like that. But if I had the choice of upgrading left field with Kepler or upgrading the infield with Bregman and using Boehm to trade for a left fielder or something like that, I would have taken Bregman. But yeah, we'll get to that in a few weeks. But I would have much rather they did more than what they did at the moment.
That's fair. All right, and then the Angels grabbed Kenley Jansen. So the Angels have actually been, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, they've actually been doing a decent amount of wheeling and dealing this offseason to give Ron Washington some more options. And the Nationals signed shortstop Paul DeYoung. So the Nationals are I'll give my prediction right now. The Nationals are not going to be in the basement this year. I'm putting the Marlins in the basement this year.
I would agree with that.
All right. Looking locally, 1 year after the Lancaster Stormers, formerly Barnstormers, had the major rebrand to change their name, the stadium is going to get a name change as well. Clipper Magazine is no more, and it's now going to be Penn Medicine Park. Good old Penn Medicine Park. Speaking as a former LGH employee, it's got to be nice to work for a health system that can only afford to do 2 to 3% raises a year, but then shell millions and millions of dollars out to name a ballpark. Gotta love that. Yeah, I'm probably, just like any other time you have an iconic stadium that's had the same name forever. I'm thinking my first thought's Heinz Field, Pittsburgh. I'm still going to call it Heinz Field for years to come. I'm probably still going to call Penn Medicine Park Clipper Magazine Stadium for a long time to come, because it's so ingrained, and it's very weird to see a new name there.
I'm going to be curious to know what kind of nicknames people come up for it, because we used to call it Clipper or the Clip.
The Clip.
I'm gonna be like, we're gonna call it, like, are we gonna go to Penn Park or PMC, like,
Well, wouldn't it be
or
PMP?
PMP, yeah, PMP, like, and there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna go to Pimp, because that reads and sounds great, doesn't it?
Whew. Boy, I can't wait to see what our wonderful our degenerate brethren down in Lancaster City come up with for this, because it's going to be good.
Yeah,
and
I'm just wondering if they're gonna get rid of the Goodwill seats and the Goodwill patches.
Honestly, I hope so. That was one of the worst decisions they ever made. Those uniforms were great, and then they add that stupid blue sleeve. Just awful. I hope it goes. I really do. And then because I know we're going to talk about the Angels in a moment, but this deserves its own headline because death, non-millionaires and billionaires paying taxes, and Anthony Rendon getting hurt are the three things in life that are most guaranteed. He's going to have to undergo left hip surgery, and according to Angels GM Perry Minasian, he's going to miss a significant amount of time. He had a setback late in the offseason with his rehab. So, guys, right before 2020, he signed a 7-year, $245 million deal. He has since then played 257 games, the most being 58 and 21. He did play 52 of 60 in the COVID season. That should be noted. Let's put this in perspective. From 1942 to 1946, Ted Williams played 300 games while missing 3 complete seasons for military service shooting down Nazis in Europe. Thank you for your service, Ted. He also, just to throw some numbers out there, Williams wins the run scored race 283 to 112, the hit race 362 to 224, the home run race 74 to 22, the walk race 301 to 138, and he only struck out 95 times over 300 games, whereas Rendon struck out 169 times over 257 games. And just for those counting the advanced statistics, the WAR count was 21.1 for Williams. In 2 seasons at 10.5 and 10.6, which is just holy shit incredible. And Rendon has managed to squeak out 3.7. God, that's one of the worst contracts in the last 10 years.
He's David Robertsoning the Angels is what he's doing. He needs to go to prison for theft. Good Lord. I can't wait for the Angels to have, some kind of giveaway where it's like they give out like a pair of crutches to 14 kids 14 years old and under with like the Anthony Rendon logo on it or something like that. This guy just, oh my gosh, he's like Andrew Bynum for the Sixers. As far as like all-time contracts, like holy crap. Easily one of the worst baseball contracts ever.
Oh, Andrew Bynum. I'm so glad the Lakers got good use out of Bynum before they dumped him off. Boy, they read that one perfect.
Yeah, this is a baseball, Andrew. Let's get back to baseball.
You're the one who brought it up.
Trust the process. Trust the process.
But like, no, I'm so glad that like he was not in Philly because it's worse than the David Robertson contract.
The only
and that's the only positive thing I have to say about David Robertson, Joe, is he did not have as bad of a contract as the Angels and Anthony Rendon.
Joe, I never thought we'd hear Jason on this podcast admit something good about David Robertson.
It's still not great. He was still a thief, but
for you, Jason, that's practically nominating him for sainthood. Let's be real here.
No, never.
The only contract I can think of in the last 10 years that was worse than that has to be Adam Jones and the Orioles.
I would say instead of Adam Jones, maybe Chris Davis.
Thank you, Chris Davis. Yeah, thank you. Although Adam Jones's last contract was not spectacular either, but thank you. Chris Davis was the really horrible one I couldn't think of. That was that was special bad. Oh man, I'm so glad we were set at third base when Rendon became a free agent. We weren't even tempted by that train wreck. All right. One on a somber note, guys. Bobby Jenks, the former White Sox closer, 2-time All-Star, he is being treated right now for stomach cancer over in Portugal. We know this because that's where he shared on his Instagram and everything else from his hospital bed. He is hoping to recover well enough to return for a second season as manager of the minor league Windy City Thunderbolts, located in Crestwood, Illinois. Wish you the best, Bobby. Hope you get healthy soon. He was a hell of a pitcher when he was at the White Sox. Wasn't he the anchor to the World Series team, Joe?
Can't remember.
Okay, that's fair. It's been so long since the White Sox were successful. It is hard to remember back that far.
Yeah,
All
that would
right,
have been
let's move
2005,
on.
so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was still in was that my shit? That was my senior year in high school, man. Wow. Okay. Anyway, so going into the AL West, not to make you guys feel even older, we'll lead it off with the Angels, the team we did not expect to finish last. We expected them to finish fourth. They went 63-99 last year. Jason was damn close in the prediction last year. He was the closest at 66. I was next at 70. Joe had 76. Ron had 78. The record change for the Angels, it has been downhill since this podcast started. From 21 to 22, they dropped 4, held steady, and then dropped 10 more to last year. Granted, they were injuries wrecked that team, plus losing Shohei Ohtani. We knew they were going to be bad. And as Jason, because I forgot, for some reason, I forgot to write down the AL predictions last year. So I had to re-listen, and Jason nailed it when he gave his, saying, There is no way to replace the amount of WAR they lost giving up Shohei Ohtani, and they did not do close to enough to even cover that, and it showed in the drop in wins. Looking at the depth chart, Logan O'Hoppe at catcher with newly signed Travis d'Arnaud, Nolan Shanuel. How the hell do you say his name anyway? Luis Renfico at sec. Well, we knew it wasn't going to be long in season 5 until I screwed up a name, guys. Let's be real. Jan Moncada.
Actually, I think he got him correct, but you then went Renfigo instead of Renhifo.
Oh, well, I also can't read apparently.
So it took just one extra name apparently.
Again, it never takes long for me. Just wait till we get to the Dodgers, although maybe I won't be doing that tonight. I didn't check how far down I'd be in the order at that point. And then Zach Netra at shortstop, outfielder, Taylor Ward, Mike Trout, Joe Adell, and Mickey Moniak is the fourth guy. We did find out earlier today Mike Trout is going to be moved to right field to reduce his injury risk. Okay. This is where you shouldn't have traded for Jorge Soler right after the World Series was over, because if you didn't do that, you could have moved Trout to DH, where he would have been way more likely to stay healthy for an entire year than going from center to right. Just saying. Pitching wise, Yusei Kikuchi, Tyler Anderson, Jose Siriano, Kyle Hendricks, and Jack Kokanowicz. Wow, I'm surprised the professor isn't fifth, Joe. I've got questions. The bullpen, though, is definitely improved with Kenley Jansen. They also have Ben Joyce, Ryan Zefferhan, Garrett McDaniels, Jose Quiada. They were wheeling and dealing this offseason. They grabbed Kenley Jansen. They got Jan Moncada, Jose Quiada, Travis d'Arnaud, Yusei Kikuchi. So one thing I've noticed as we've been watching the Angels, they can develop bats. They can't develop pitching to save their life. So I don't mind seeing them going after pitching anywhere they can in the offseason, because they can't develop it themselves. Also getting Jorge Soler in a trade with Atlanta, Scott Kingery from Philadelphia for cash. No real big losses. Sandoval left, and that's Griffin Canning was traded to Atlanta, who promptly waived him. So really not much out. But again, when you go 63-99, you're generally not going to lose too many big free agents from a team like that. Jason, let you start it off. What are your thoughts on the Angels and your prediction?
Similar to last year, as far as I don't think that they've definitely improved a little bit, I believe. But if your ace of the rotation is Yusei Kikuchi, your starting pitching is going to suffer a bit, I think. Now playing at Angel Stadium might give them a little bit of hope. But I am going to give them a little bit more as far as the wins go. I'm going to put them... I think I'm going to... I was torn between fourth and fifth here. I think I'm going to put them in fourth. No, I'm going to keep them in fifth with about... I'll take 67 wins.
So you're going up 4, okay?
Yep.
67 and fifth. How about you, Joe?
Well, I think they made enough improvements in the places like that they needed to. I think I mean, first off, the Trout nonsense. A lot of his injuries have happened running the bases and other shit too. So
Yeah.
regardless of where he plays, he's just injury prone at this point. Um, so to me, I think the biggest improvement is pitching. There's a few positional places that they got better. So I'm gonna go at I'm gonna go with 69 wins, and they'll be at fifth.
Nice. So, yes, Kikuchi is not the guy you want to be the head of your staff. It's still better than it was last year, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, Oakland definitely improved. They actually spent money because the Athletics improved because they had to spend extra money because who the hell wants to play in a minor league field as your home stadium for the next 3 years? If you're lucky, it's only 3 years. We'll talk about them in a second, but I think I'm going to go. I want to say 70, but I don't know that they've improved 7 wins. I think I'm going to, I'll split you guys. I'll go 68, but I think they're going to be fourth. I think they're going to be fourth, not fifth. Although, let's be real, the race for the bottom in the AL West is probably going to be a train wreck. But I trust Ron Washington a lot more than I trust the entirety of the Sacramento Athletics ball club. God, that's never going to sound right. Speaking of the Athletics, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah. So we have the Bay Area Athletics, or whatever they're going to call themselves.
Sacramento's not close to the Bay, bud.
I don't know where they. I'm just over the Athletics at this point. Well, more so, I'm over their owner than anything. But 2024, they went 69-93. Which was good enough or bad enough, whatever you want to call it, for fourth place in the division. Last year, all of us had them really bad. I was just the least bad, so I took this one with 54 wins, followed by Joe and Ron had
like 15. We were so bad on this one.
Joe and Ron had 52, and Andrew, you almost had them at sub 50. You had them at 50 on the nose.
I almost had 49 just to spite them.
So they were not as bad as we thought they would be. But they still did lose 26 wins. Or no, did I look that right? No, sorry, I was looking at something. They went up. They gained 19 wins.
Yeah.
I was looking at all those changes. I don't need to know all those years. Between last year and this year, they went up 19 wins.
It's just crazy. Since we started, they dropped 26, they dropped 10, and they got 19 back. Like with the Athletics, it's big. It seems like it's big chunks up or down every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's so glad I'm not a fan.
So their depth chart is looking pretty good. Primarily Shea Langoliers is going to catch. Soderstrom at first, Galoff at second, Gio Urshela, Jacob Wilson, and then your outfield of Miguel Andujar, JJ Bleday, Lawrence Butler, Seth Brown. DH, a guy that I was really hoping the Phils would trade for last year, Booker, who can also play in the outfield there. Starting pitching is looking okay with Severino, Springs, Sears, Beto, and Spence. They still have one of the best closers around right now with Mason Miller. Again, as long as he can stay healthy. So they didn't re-sign anybody, but they did gain a few players here. Most notable here were Luis Severino is kind of the big one, a 2-year deal with the player option for 2027, which ended up being the largest contract in franchise history. And they also brought in Gio Urshela. So the main
67 million, by the way, 3 years, 67.
Yeah. So the main thing here is they also didn't really lose anybody. They kept their young guys. They did trade shortstop Nick Allen to Atlanta. So this one, I think they're going to be a little bit better than last year. They're still not going to be great. I'm only probably going to have them a couple wins higher. I'm going to keep them in 4th place in the division above the Angels. I'm going to give them 74 wins.
Okay. So 74 and 4th.
Yeah.
All right. I really hated trading Shea Langoliers for Matt Olson. The Olson trade worked out, but Langoliers was the one guy I didn't want traded, and of course we had to fucking trade him. And of course he's looking really good. I mean, he had a great year last year, and I do hope he continues to be successful. But damn, that's one hell of a what if.
You got Matt Olson and you extended him. Like, shut the hell up, man.
No,
Jeez Louise, man. Jeez
I know, but
Louise.
Murphy has definitely not worked out as well as Olson has because he got hurt last year. Anyway, I'm gonna keep the A's right about where they are. I actually think I'm gonna keep them at I had the Angels at 68 wins. All right, I'm gonna drop the A's 1, and the Angels win the tiebreaker to stay in 4th place over the A's, just to keep my predictions consistent. I wouldn't be shocked though if you do end up seeing the A's closer to the low to mid 70s. They definitely have the potential to be there, but I'm going to say 68 and 5th. Joe?
I'm gonna go. You know what? What the heck? 76 and 3rd. Why not? Let's make a bold prediction. Why not?
I like it.
I mean, nobody expected them to do anything last year, and they looked really good for a good chunk of the season. So,
yeah,
I mean,
I just until they get a new owner, I can't root for them to be successful.
It's a little rich for them to move stadiums and they give out the biggest contract in team history. But hey,
yeah, we couldn't afford to field a team in Oakland. But somehow I found $60-some million burning a hole in my pocket the moment I left. Yeah, bullshit. Shut the fuck up, asshole. Worst owner in baseball by far. All right, Joe, what do you got for the Rangers?
So the Rangers last year were 78 and 84, good for 3rd in the AL West. Jason was the closest, I think, at 88 wins. Overshot that a bit.
Well, we did bad on this one.
That was the closest on that. Their record change between last year and this year is 12. Or the year before is 12 wins to the negative. Their depth chart, they still have Jonah Heim, and they had Higashioka at catcher, Jake Berger at first, Marcus Semien still at second, and Seager at short. Their outfield, Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, Adolis Garcia, Tavares. They have Jock at DH, Jock Peterson. Their rotation is Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, John Gray, Tyler Mahle, and Cody Bradford. And then their bullpen, Chris Martin, Robert Garcia, Jacob Webb, and Sean Armstrong. They did re-sign Eovaldi in the offseason. Some new acquisitions. They have Jesse Chavez, who will conveniently be traded to Atlanta at some point throughout the year.
It's the way things go, man.
Reliever Chris Martin is a big acquisition for them. I think he'll make a huge difference. And Berger was via trade. They did lose. Nathaniel Lowe is the most notable one, other than David Robertson, that they lost from last year to this year.
I wouldn't call that a loss.
I only did that for the fun of it. So
everywhere that's not Philadelphia, so get the hell over it.
So anyway, that's sort of where they're at. I think, from last year to this year, I think they're betting an awful lot on DeGrom being healthy again, and I just don't believe in it. Until he can prove that he can pitch, through a majority of the season, I'm just not going to believe he can do it. So I feel like they should have done a little more on the pitching side. To me, I mean, offense was not their problem last year. Pitching was. So, at spots throughout the year. So if I were making a prediction, I think I will say 75 and 4th.
75 and 4th. All right. I'm not going to lie. I like their offense. and I really like their infield. I think Jake Berger's a very nice piece to move into first base for them, with Semien and Seager. I mean, that's a really hard infield to hit around. And it's a solid defensive infield as well. So they're going to play good defense. They're going to play good offense. My question is, you've got a guy who's got a glass arm for a cannon in Jacob deGrom, that when he's healthy, he is still otherworldly. And when he is not, you lose a lot of time. Why are they not one of the clubs that's considering running a 6-man rotation? Like, if there was ever a club to give extra, I mean, I think the Dodgers are considering it too. If there's ever a club that needs a 6-man rotation, it's this one. Give Jacob deGrom all the freaking rest he can get. I love the addition of Chris Martin. I don't know about Chris Martin as a closer. He's always been, I think, primarily a setup guy, 7th inning guy for most of his career. So I'm really curious to see how well that's going to work out for them. So
he's been a dominant 7th, 8th inning guy for many years. He was that way with the Cubs before he went to Boston. So, I mean,
yeah, I loved him in Atlanta. He was a great pitcher to have at the back end. Joe, what'd you put him at?
I think I said 75 and third or fourth. Yeah, 75 and fourth. Yeah,
I think they're going to improve. I'm going to say, I think they're going to jump up to about 83, just under where the Mariners were last year. I think they're going to stay in third. I don't think they're going to get a wild card spot, because I don't think 83 wins is going to be enough for the wild card 3 spot in the American League this year. I think there's enough contending teams that you're going to need to be high 80s, low 90s to get the last wild card spot in the AL. What do you think, Jason?
So I agree they're not going to get a wild card spot, and that's because bowl prediction time, they're going to win the division.
Ooh, I like this. Oh, I would love to see the reign of Astros terror end.
I love their offense. I think they made great moves in bringing in Jake Berger. I'm so glad he's away from Miami.
Amen.
I mean, Jonah Heim, Berger, Semien, the young guys in Young, you have Seager, Langford, and Carter. Like, this team is going to rake. And starting pitching, even if they don't get the full season out of deGrom, I'm comfortable enough with the rest of their rotation and their farm system that I think they are going to jump from third all the way up to first and win this division. And I'm going to give them 91 wins.
I do agree. I don't think this division's going to take a lot of wins to take the crown this year.
I think the Rangers, Astros, and Mariners are going to basically beat each other up, like what we'll probably talk about in a few weeks with the National League East division. So, yeah. But I think the Rangers will end up coming out on top.
All right. Let's Jason, since you have Dave's predictions, do you want to do the Mariners? I'll do the Astros.
Yeah, tell you what here. So for the Mariners, before I get into the predictions and whatnot, just a recap. They went 85 and 77 last year, good for second in the American League West. They did not make the postseason, and they lost 3 wins between 23-24 and between last year. So their depth chart, they still have Cal Raleigh and Mitch Garver catching, Luke Raley, Dylan Moore, Jorge Polanco, and J.P. Crawford. And then their outfield still looks really good here with Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, who needs to have a bounce back year for them to be successful.
Yes.
Victor Robles, Mitch Garver as the DH. And then you're still a fantastic rotation of Luis Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Bryce Miller, and Brian Wu. Andres Munoz back to closing. So they did re-sign Jorge Polanco, and essentially they didn't really have any significant additions overall. But but they are returning a good core here. They did lose Austin Voth, which can potentially hurt them a little bit, but I think overall their starting pitching is good, their offense is good. So let me pull up Dave's prediction here. He's basically saying, first of all, he goes, well, they win the World Series, obviously, as only Dave would say.
Of course.
But he goes,
Never been why not?
he's thinking similar to last year, where it's, can they hit enough for the best staff in the American League? I don't know that I would call them the best staff in the American League, but can the offense show up for their pitchers? Is going to be the kind of the main thing here. And then he's thinking that they will probably wind up slightly over 500 around the, he's saying the 85 to 88 range. So I'm going to cut him off in the middle since we like to give ourselves the hard numbers. And I'm going to go right in the middle there. I'll give him a little bit. I'll say 86 for his mid-range pick there.
We'll put World Series in quotes. Got it.
I don't know that they are even making the playoffs with that record, because I think the rest of the American League, particularly the East, is going to be significantly better than second and third place in the American League West. So I do think the Mariners missed the playoffs just because I have the Rangers win in the division. I don't know that we'll get two teams out of the American League West. But I think I'm going to have them. I do agree with them being similar to last year. I think I'm going to drop them. And I'm sorry. I need to give some props here because this was not bolded, but our predictions for last year, Joe came in with a spot on 85.
Bravo.
So Joe stopping my streak of winning these predictions with a perfect 85. And then we had Dave had 91. And Andrew and I both had 90. So we were all fairly close. Joe just right on the money.
Yeah.
I do think they'll go up a little bit. I'm going to have them second in the division. But I'm going to have them I'm going to say 88 wins.
88 and second. Okay. What do you got, Joe? Mr. Nailed it last year. You got to nail it again.
I'm gonna go 87, and I think 87 is good enough to win this division.
It wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't shock me.
Which will become more clear at the next juncture here.
Yeah. Jason, what starting pitching staff in the American League is better than Seattle's, do you think? I'm just curious.
Oh, I haven't really put them all together.
Because I think that is the best starting staff in the American League.
It certainly could be.
Especially
I'm thinking even. I mean, you have a couple. You have other Cy Young candidates out there. You have a defending Cy Young and Tariq Skubal in Detroit. I think the Yankees have potential there. So I think while there's absolutely an argument for them to be the best starting staff in the American League, it's also debatable. But I did not do all the additional research because that was not my requirement for tonight.
No, that's fair. I was just curious if you had one that you thought was that you were ready to say you would consider to be better than the Mariners at this point. And that's fine if you don't. If you're just hedging your bet, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just hedging.
I do think they have the best staff in the American League, though. But that's the same question I still have about this team is, are they going to score enough runs? It's great when you have a staff that gives up almost no runs, but when you can't they only gave up 607 runs allowed last year. I mean, that's amazing. That was by far the best in their division, but here's the problem. They only scored 676 runs, which is plus 69. It's tough in that ballpark. As we saw in the home run derby, That is a terrible park to have a home run derby, and that is a terrible park to hope to have any kind of offense in. Ichiro did so well because he could pound it in the gaps and run really fast because that outfield is cavernous.
Hall of Famer Ichiro Suzuki.
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't put the Ichiro jersey on this year. Sorry, Dave. I think the Mariners are going to win the division. I'm going to put I think they're going to break 90. I'm going to put them at 92. And I will not be shocked if when the infighting of the division knocks that back down to the high 80s. But I'm going to give them a shot to get into for one team to get into the 90s. I am definitely not predicting a World Series appearance for the Mariners, who have yet to have a World Series appearance in their career as a franchise.
Yeah, I think the thing with the Mariners that's really hard to judge, just to sort of add on, is that their first half of the year was just horrendous. They dug themselves a hole and they just couldn't dig out of it again.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's where Julio has to step up.
I think this is going to be a different year. I think Julio is going to make that adjustment, and I think they're not going to have that drop off at the start of the year.
Yeah, I'm definitely expecting Julio to have a much better season this year than he had last year. All right, and then to round off the American League West, we have the new AAA team of the Chicago Cubs, the Houston Astros. At least that's the way it seems to be going. Last year, they ended the year at 88-73, first in the American League West. They lost the American League wild card to Detroit. They got swept. Boy, that was fun to watch. I was so happy to see the Astros get swept out, along with probably 98% of baseball fans across America. I was the closest in the predictions last year. I was one off at 87. I'm very happy with that, although we were all pretty close. Joe was at 90 and Jason was at 91. So we were definitely thinking that the Astros were going to continue to slide. Since the show started, they went up 11, then dropped 16, and then this past year they dropped 2 more, and I think we're going to see more dropping as we go. The depth chart, they did make. I loved signing Christian Walker at first base. I think that was a huge move that they needed to do to shore up first base because let's be real here, Jose Abreu was not the guy last year. Yanier Diaz will be catching. Altuve will be at second base until he hangs up the cleats and sends his trash can to the Hall of Fame. Paredes will be at third. Jeremy Pena's at short. Outfielders, Marcio Dubon, Jake Myers, Chas McCormick, and Ben Gamel, and Yordan Alvarez at DH when he is healthy. Because having had him on the fantasy team last year, when he was healthy, that was a great bat to have. But boy, I did not get a lot of use out of that bat. The pitching, definitely not the best staff in the American League with Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, Spencer Arrighetti, Ronel Blanco, and Hayden Wesneski, although I think Wesneski's probably going to end up being their 3 or 4 guy. I don't think he's going to be the 5 guy coming out of camp, especially after what we saw last year. The pitching, they still have Josh Hader closing, which as long as he's not facing Freddie Freeman, he is a very reliable closer against lefties. Brian Abreu, Caleb Ort, Brian King, Taylor Scott. Not a lot of wheeling and dealing again, other than getting Christian Walker, which was an absolutely huge need because most of what they did was get rid. They did pick up, like I said, Paredes and Wesneski from the Cubbies when they sent over Kyle Tucker. They also sent Presley over. Presley, let's be real, Presley was kind of superfluous with Josh Hader out there. Although I'm personally never of the opinion to subtract the big arms in your bullpen because you never know when somebody's going to get hurt. And as we know, when it comes to playoff times, it's not possible to have too many arms in the bullpen. They also lost, as we mentioned earlier, Alex Bregman to Boston. So a lot more guys coming out than coming in. I think the Astros are going to plummet down to third place this year. I'm going to knock them. Let's see here. They were at 88. I'm going to knock them all the way down to 78. I'm going to go -10 for the Astros this year to 78 wins. And no freaking playoffs, please, for the love of God. What do you think, Jason?
They lost a lot. That's the main thing. They lost a lot. They kept some of their good players, but they also are losing a lot of their good players with that. I think they are going to drop. I will have them in third place in the division as well. I'm going to have them. I don't think they're going to drop as far as you're saying they are. I'm going to have them at 84 wins.
Reasonable. All right. What do you think, Joe?
I'm going to have them at. You know what? I'm gonna say 79.
Okay.
It just feels to me as they have a lot of good depth on the farm in the position places, but it's unproven, and you're baking it based off of what they may be able to do. And pitching wise, this is just a gutted rotation.
This is nothing special.
Yeah, I'm just not impressed by this, and I think finally the shoe's about to drop on them, and they'll finish second only because I had the Rangers dropping lower. But I think there's a scenario where they drop even lower than that.
Wouldn't that be a pity? I mean, everybody in baseball would just be heartbroken to see the Astros plummet more than 10 wins down this year. Oh, wouldn't that be spectacular? Well, folks, never said this would be a completely unbiased show. I despise cheaters, so fuck the Astros, and I hope everything bad keeps happening to them. Joe, you're pretty happy with everything you guys got from your new AAA club?
I mean, other than not getting Bregman, yeah. I mean, let's be obvious here. I don't. I mean, Tucker's an amazing talent. We'll get more into the Central in a couple weeks, but he's an amazing talent, and I don't know if they don't use this freed up belly money to extend him, I'm gonna be pissed. So,
yeah,
I don't know, man. We'll see.
All right, let's move into the West. Joe, why don't you take the high flying altitude and low win probability Rockies?
Sure. Last year they had 61 wins, 61 and 101. Good enough for, you guessed it, fifth in the NL West. Jason was the closest on this one Jason and Ron kind of split the difference on this one. They were both one win up and behind. Jason was at 60 and Ron at 62. So nice job by you guys for being that close. I think they defied expectations, let's be honest. A little bit.
They went up.
Their record change from 23 to 24 was a gain of 2 wins. Might be 2 games that Chris Bryant actually played in, but their depth chart catcher is Jacob Stallings. He's the notable one here. Ryan McMahon is still at third. Tovar is at short. Their outfield is still Nolan Jones, Sam Hillard, Brenton Doyle. Chris Bryant, outfield, DH, wherever he is healthy enough to play at. Their pitching rotation, Herman Marquez, Austin Gomberg, Kyle Freeland, Ryan Feltner, and Antonio Sanzatella. The closer for them looks like it's going to be Tyler Kinley this year, so a change from I think it was Daniel Bard the last couple of years. So that's an interesting note. They did re-sign Hillard and Stallings in the offseason this year, and picked up Kyle Farmer as well, an infielder. They lost Charlie Blackmon to retirement, Cal Quantrill to free agency, Jake Cave to free agency as well. So on this team obviously didn't get any better, I don't think. I don't know that they got worse, but I'll say, and we'll give them 2 wins. I'll say 63 and 99. So they'll just make it under 100 losses.
They're still going to be fifth, right? Just double check.
They'll still be fifth. Okay. Yes. Yeah, they'll still be fifth, but I think they're going to be just under 100 losses instead of 100 wins like their owner said they would have.
You're reading that starting rotation off, and I'm thinking of the rest of this division. That's might be one of the worst starting rotations in baseball. In a
They wouldn't
ball,
even make the active 40-man roster for like
no,
the Dodgers, D-backs, and Padres.
Jason,
It'd be like,
I don't even think Marquez would make fifth starter in the Braves and the Phillies, realistically.
no.
So, good God, this is
Their biggest remaining need is pretty much everywhere.
yeah.
So
The
I'm
only
not
thing
really
that team-
sure.
The only thing that team doesn't need is a new ballpark. Everything else can go.
There is. I know I've advocated for him a few times in other locations throughout the show already, but there is a certain first base and DH who's a lefty who would love to hit the right field in that stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, you can't tell me Anthony Rizzo is a worse option than Michael Toglia.
Well, I mean, you're trying to
Chris
replace
Bryant.
Charlie. You're trying to replace Charlie Blackmon, and I think they didn't do that.
No, they didn't.
So
This team's going to be hideous. They might have slightly improved them. Pile of shit's a pile of shit. It doesn't matter what way the pile is shaped. Here's the problem. The rest of the division got significantly better, and they are all going to cannibalize the Rockies this year. I said 54 last year, and I feel like that's probably going to be pretty close. I'm not going to go down quite that far. I'll go to 56 and perpetual basement dwellers for the time to come. What do you think, Jason?
The person I feel bad for here is Ezekiel Tovar. I hope he could somehow manage a trade out off of that team because he is a great player that deserves to be with a competitor. But they're going to be fifth in the division for like the foreseeable future. I don't know that I drop them to the 50s. I'm going to take them at 60 at 102. Like I think they still will have 100 losses, but I think it's going to be closer to the 100 than it will be higher.
We'll see, man, because I don't see a lot of wins for this team anywhere.
No.
Moving on to the Giants. Last year, they had an 80-82 record, fourth in the West. The closest was Jason nailed it right on at 80. I was right behind you at 82. Ron at 83. Joe was at 85. So we were all in the ballpark within 5 games. I'll take that. Honestly, guys, the way trying to make these predictions in the preseason, I think anytime we're within 5, that's freaking phenomenal. And
I would like to point out that, like, with us not being Western Division people, the fact that we have, and I see there's more coming up here, but we have multiple exact predictions, which is probably the best I think we've done with our previews.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. Looking at the record change, now let's remember they did have the minus 26 from our first season to our second season because they had that 110 win season, and so they dropped 26, dropped 2, and they gained one of them back. I don't know that for as long as we'll do the podcast, I don't know we'll ever see the Giants get back to that 110 win benchmark, to be fair. We could do this for 50 more years, and I don't know that we'll ever see them get back to 110 wins, but it's a hell of a benchmark to start from anyway. The depth chart, Patrick Bailey will be doing most of the catching. Lamont Wade at first, Tyler Fitzgerald at second, Matt Chapman at third, freaking Willie Adames at shortstop. God, I was hoping he was going to Atlanta, but nope, that was not to be. Outfield, Helio Ramos, Jung-Hoo Lee, Mike Yastrzemski, and Encarnacion will be the backup as well as the primary DH. And when he is playing, Wilmer Flores will take over DH duties. Not a bad pitching staff, honestly. It's not the Dodgers, but it's not a bad pitching staff. Ryan Walker, Camilo Duvall, Tyler Rogers. I'm sorry, it's the bullpen. Starters are Logan Webb, Justin Verlander, Robbie Ray, Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison. And I expect Robbie Ray is going to have a good bounce back, being one more year away from Tommy John surgery. Verlander at 2, I think he's more of a 4 at this point, but hey, you got to stroke the old man's ego a little bit. The bullpen, Ryan Walker, Camilo Duvall, Tyler Rogers, Eric Miller. It's not a terrible bullpen, honestly. Let's be real. If we drop the Giants in the AL Central, they'd win the division easily. Yeah, maybe second with the Guardians, but it's definitely an improved Giants team from last year. I love them picking up Camilo Duvall. I love Verlander. He's old. It's the same story as Max Scherzer, but he's not being brought in to be we're going to try and convince our young guys to stay. He's we think there's something left in the tank and let's see what we can get out of it. So I think it's a better mindset than the Scherzer deal. Willie Adames, boy, Jason, I didn't think my prediction would be that close to accurate for when I was predicting money lines for Willie Adames. Holy crap.
That's
really
a great get. I know you're bummed that he did not go to Atlanta. I am relieved he did not go to Atlanta.
I don't blame Joe's relieved he's not in Milwaukee anymore. Let's be real here.
That's so great pickup for the Giants.
Yeah, probably the best move that team could have made all year. I think they're definitely on the upward swing. Boy, the top of the West is tough to predict this year other than the Dodgers because the Dodgers are just playing cheat codes to go 162-0. But I think the Giants are going to improve. I'm going to say 86, and I think they are going to jump one of the teams ahead of them back into third place. I do not think that's going to get them the last wild card spot. So I'm going to say 86 wins and third. All righty. Jason?
This team is definitely improved. I think they break 500. I almost want to make them 81-81 just for fun. But I think they've done better than a one-win swing. How many did you say, Andrew?
86.
Okay. I think I'm going to put them at 84 wins. And looking at the rest of these teams, it's going to come down to second, third, or fourth. I think I might keep them in. I'm going to keep them in fourth.
Fourth? Yeah.
Yep.
Joe, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna split the difference between you guys. I'm gonna do 85. 85 wins. I still don't think it's gonna be good enough to bypass anybody else in the top three. So I think they'll stay fourth, but 85. Adames is worth at least 5.
Yeah. And fourth or third?
Fourth.
Okay. All right. Yeah. God, I was really hoping he was coming to Atlanta. Man, I was hoping for that one. Guess
you could have just re-signed the shortstop you had.
You know what? I would have been okay with re-signing the shortstop I had. I love Dansby. Still do. To be honest, I'll probably use some of my reward bucks from Obvious Shirts to get a Dansby shirt this year, even though it'll be a Chicago Cubs-based Dansby shirt. Oh, by the way, Joe, I finally got Alex an Obvious Shirts for Christmas. I got him the one of the World Series shirts from way back when.
There you go.
I think I went with the best inning in baseball was shirt. Such a good one.
Something like that. Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. We are up to the Diamondbacks. Go ahead, Jason.
All right. So the Diamondbacks last year, 89-73, which was good for third in the division. They did end up missing out on the playoffs because they lost all the tiebreakers to the Braves and the Mets. And we have another correct prediction. I came in with the 89 wins, which, I know we don't compete, but that would be my 6th out of the 10 divisions that I'm closest on. It's also the last of the divisions that I'm closest on, or for the Western groups here. But yeah, so I had 89 wins there right on target. Ron was a little under at 84. Joe had 91, and Andrew had 92. And we all had them making the playoffs last year, but that did not happen. They did gain 5 wins, however, from their NL championship year. And they return a big part of the core. They still have Gabriel Moreno, Josh Naylor, Ketel Marte, Eugenio Suarez, and Geraldo Perdomo, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Jake McCarthy, Corbin Carroll, Randall Grichuk, all for the outfield, Pavin Smith for the DH. Starting pitchers, they had a good get here with Corbin Burns, following up with Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt, and Eduardo Rodriguez, with Justin Martinez closing and AJ Puck kind of setting up there. You also have Bryce Jarvis. So they re-signed some of their players. They re-signed Zach Gallen, which was big, as well as Geraldo Perdomo. And then their new acquisitions, they really, I think, knocked it out here with Corbin and Josh Naylor. Excuse me. They did lose a little bit. Paul Sewald and Christian Walker is essentially Christian Walker is the biggest loss that they had. But I think they more than made up for it by going after Corbin Burns. Kind of counter the loss of offense by increasing the pitching. So overall, I think they did pretty much what they needed to do to just kind of stay around where they were. I think Corbin Burns might help them get a few more wins. So I'm going to jump them up to second place in the division. And I'm going to give them second place in the division at 92 wins.
Making the playoffs?
I don't think the NL Central is going to have more than the division winner. The NL East is just so good. At least the top 3 in the NL East, but they might beat up. So verbal processing here. I'll give them the second wild card.
Wild card 2. Got it.
All right. I guess we have what? 3 wild cards? 2 wild cards?
3.
3. I'll give them wild card 3.
Wild card 3. Okay. All right, Joe, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with 93 wins. Good for second in that division. I wasn't sold until you started talking a bit about Burns and Naylor and that replacement there. I was gonna go lower with the loss of Sewald. That usually when you get a guy like that who's effective, you don't want to lose him, and they just kind of let him go. But I'm gonna go. What did I say? 93 or 91? 93.
93.
93 and good for second in that division.
Wild card?
Yeah, why not? I'm not going to be specific, but they'll get there.
Okay.
I think.
I am bullish on the Diamondbacks. They're not gonna catch the Dodgers. The Dodgers are too deep. That entire starting lineup could be completely decimated with injuries, and they'll still win 95 games, which is nuts. I'm gonna give the Diamondbacks. I think I'm gonna go right where Jason is at 92, but I'm gonna say wild card 2, just so we have something that's different. But I think we're all pretty much dialed in pretty well where the Diamondbacks are going to be. This is a team that's improved every year since we've started the show. And I don't think this is going to be the year we start to see regression. Now, we're not going to see the large jumps anymore. They went plus 22, plus 10, plus 5, and about plus 2, 3, 4 feels about right to me from last year to this year. That is a scary pitching staff. That's not the staff you want to face in a short series at all. Running Burns, Galen, and Kelly at you like that. Good God. All right. Let's see here. Then we've got the Joe Padres. Go ahead.
They were 93 and 69 last year, good for second in the NL West. They were the first wild card eliminated by the Dodgers 3-2 in the divisional series. Ron
They
was the
had the
closest
chance.
Ron was the closest
They had
on
the
this
chance.
prediction last year at 81, 81 wins.
Yeah, we missed this one bad.
Their change from 23 to 24 was plus 11 on the win column. The Elias Diaz is their primary catcher. Luis Arias at first, Cronenworth at second, Machado and Bogarts, the other infielders. Jason Hayward, Jackson Merrill, Tatis, and Connor Joe in the outfield. Tyler Wade in the DH spot. They did manage to somehow keep Dylan Cease throughout the offseason, so Dylan Cease is back. Michael King, Yu Darvish, Nick Pivetta, and Musgrove is going to be out for the year, but we'll see what happens with if they make the playoffs. He could be back for that. It looks like. He said you have him as recovering from Tommy John. I forgot that he had surgery.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised they didn't pick up another starter with that drop off there, but they feel pretty good with what they have, I think. And there wasn't a whole lot of improvement to make other than that. So they did manage to not get rid of Mike Schilt for no reason, like the Cardinals did. Sorry, Zach. And gave him a 2-year extension. So there is some stability there at the managerial spot, which I think is helpful for them. The biggest loss, I think, for them is Profar in the outfield. That's easily the biggest loss for them as a team. However, I do feel that Connor Joe is going to make a difference for them, first base / outfield. I think he plays both, maybe, a little bit. So I think he'll make enough of a difference out there. So I'm going to go with, you know what? I'll let you guys go first.
No. This is yours to go first. Go last for the Dodgers. Give me a break.
You know what? 98 and win this division.
Ooh, I like it.
Why not?
Wow.
Why not?
I like that. I don't think there's a snowball shot in hell of that happening, but I like it.
I wouldn't be upset with that, honestly.
No, I wouldn't either. So you mentioned the flexibility with Connor Joe. Honestly, I think Arise is going to end up being moved to DH because he is a terrible defender anywhere you put him in the infield, and he doesn't have the speed to play in the outfield. So I think Connor Joe is going to move down to first base, and Arise is going to go to DH. Just my outside looking in guess. Jackson Merrill's great. There's a lot of great center fielders in this division. I mean, we shit on the Rockies a lot, and they rightfully earn to be shit on because they're a terrible team. But it should be noted that though Brenton Doyle is one of the best center fielders in the game, especially defensively. Hell of an arm, great speed out there. With the Padres, though, I feel like they got on one hell of a surge towards the end of the season last year. I don't know that they have enough. I don't know that they have enough to do that for a whole year. Cronenworth does not usually stay healthy all year. Machado is going to be Machado. He's either going to be great or he's going to be a whiny little bitch and he's going to suck. Jason Hayward is not a good replacement for Profar. He's not going to be an outfielder this year. That's a ton of production that they'll lose out there. Maybe Fernando Tatis will have to take steroids to make up for the difference. We'll have to see. I'm not impressed with the pitching. Dylan Cease as your ace is you could do worse. I mean, look at the Rockies, but Dylan Cease is not he's not peak Dylan Cease unless he regains the form he had a couple years ago with the White Sox. So we'll have to see which Dylan Cease they get. I think the Rockies are the team that's going to have the drop back. I'm going to put them down. Let's see.
You mean the Padres?
Yeah, the Padres. Sorry. I'm not going to drop them. I'm not going to drop them into the 70s, but I'm going to drop them down to just over 500. I'm going to go to 84 wins, and they are going to be the fourth place team in the division this year. What do you think, Jason?
They're definitely going to drop off, I think. Losing Profar hurts. I don't trust the rotation enough. I don't trust like Nick Pavetta here. You lose Musgrove for most likely the year. You Darvish is another year older. So I'm gonna drop them to third in the division, I think is what I have left before the Dodgers, because I had the D-backs jumping them. So third in the division. I think they'll end up being around 88 wins.
Okay. 88 third. Are you giving them a wild card?
No.
Okay. All right. And then, of course, we have the Dodgers, who unfortunately won the World Series last year. It was against, talk about a matchup I had nobody to root for, the Dodgers and the Yankees. Jason, I'm glad for your dad, but boy, that was it was like this year's Super Bowl. For someone who has no interest in either team, it was a boring game. And it wasn't I was happy for Freddie Freeman. It gave me something to at least be excited for. The Dodgers went 98-64 last year. The closest was Ronnie at 102. He was only 4 off. Joe had 92. He was 6 off. I had 104. Jason had 107. So we all expected more out of them last year, and they managed not to do as much, but still win the World Series. From 23 to 24, they did drop 2 wins. Looking at the depth chart, good God, this is stupid. Will Smith catching, Freddie Freeman at first, and he's supposed to be fully healthy for opening day. Hae-Seong Kim at second, Max Muncy at third. I had Muncy in there twice, didn't I? Anyway, Kike is going to be their utility guy again. Outfield, Conforto, Edmund, Teoscar Hernandez. Andy Page is the fourth guy, and of course, Shohei Ohtani at DH. Pitching, Yamamoto is going to be the ace again. Ohtani is expected to be a contributing member to the staff this year. I got a lot of feelings about that. Joe, I know you have even more feelings about that. I'll let you take the run with that when I get through the rest of this. Blake Snell was a ridiculous pickup class now, although he is recovering from injury. I have not seen a timeline for if they expect him to be ready by the start of the season or not. Roki Sasaki, who they got on a ridiculously cheap minor league deal because of his age, coming over from Japan, and Clayton Kershaw, although again he'll be out for at least 2 months. The Dodgers, as I mentioned earlier, are expected to run a 6-man rotation for at least parts of the season to give Yamamoto and Ohtani extra time in between starts to preserve them as much as they can. I think that makes a lot of sense. This bullpen, Jesus H. Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, Michael Kopech, Blake Trinian, Alex Vesia, Evan Phillips. That went from the biggest question mark going into the World Series last year to probably the best bullpen in the National League, maybe the best bullpen in baseball right now. God, that's irritating, isn't it? And I forgot Brusdar Graterol still in the club too. He's just with everybody else that drops him that far in the bull. That's insane. That Graterol is now like a 5'6" guy in that bullpen. What the hell? All right, so the Dodgers kept wheeling and dealing. They picked up Yates, they picked up Scott, they got Sasaki, they got Kim, they got Conforto, they got Snell, and pretty much everybody that they picked up has deferred money. Maybe not Kike because it's only like $6 million or whatever, but pretty much everybody's deferring money. The Dodgers have over $1 billion in deferments. At this point, they are so utterly abusing the luxury tax system. It's not even funny. And I really hope when we have the next round of negotiations, I'm sure the Players Association is not going to say, let's get rid of deferments because that helps their members because they still get their money. But I hope they change how deferred money is looked at in the luxury tax because it needs to be, because this is blatant and utter abuse of the system. God, freaking Dodgers. All right. how high do I want to put these freaking guys? 98 last year. They're going to break 100 again. I'm going to go 103. And yes, they're winning the division. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, 103 was a number in my mind because they've gotten better. It's crazy to think that this team could get better, and they got better. Questionable how they're doing it, but they're going to win the division. They're even, I think, going to run away with it. Amazing thinking like, oh, a team might have 92, 93 wins and not even sniff the division. So to be a little different from you, I'm going to Prices Right you and go 104.
Of course you are.
And yeah, win the division.
Yeah. Good God. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. So, I know you have thoughts on Ohtani. I'll let you start with that.
I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever to pitch this guy. I mean, he's had at least two, right? 2 Tommy Johns.
Yeah, I think so.
So this is stupid. This is absolutely mind-bogglingly stupid. But because of my dislike for the Dodgers, to quote John Oliver in a different context, do it. Please do it. Please let him pitch. Go ahead. Please. It makes no sense to me from an injury standpoint. I'm not really sure in general with the Dodgers how I feel about this. I mean, Blake Snell may benefit from actually being signed before training camp starts this year compared to the year before.
Yeah.
But I'm not sold that he can be the Blake Snell from the Padres and from even before that. And Glasnow is always injured, it feels like. You want to talk about somebody with a glass arm, he's one of them.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. So, I mean, the rotation went from being pretty locked up and pretty great to I'm not sure about this, and the bullpen is not the problem. So as far as win totals go, I think I have to remember what I had for the Diamondbacks and the Padres.
You
I think you had the Padres winning with like 98, I think it was.
Yeah, Padres were 98, and you had the Diamondbacks at 93.
And I know what I said for the Diamondbacks, and I'm going to change that because they're not going to be second. I think the Dodgers will be second, and I think it will be 94 or 93 with a tiebreaker, something like that.
Okay, so Diamondbacks will stay 93, but third place now?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're putting the Dodgers at 93 or 94?
I guess 94, technically.
Yeah. All right. Well, remember, there are tiebreakers.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sold on the starting rotation for them. I just and I know 6-man is kind of something that people are starting to do, but I'm just not sure we've seen it work effectively yet. So it'll be an interesting experiment to see how that adjustment works for them. I'm just not sure. I'm not sold on it, and Sasaki could get, promoted pretty early given the health of the rest of that rotation anyway. So
I fully expect Sasaki to be up on opening day or within the first month. I don't think he's going to spend much, if any, time in the minors. I hope if the Dodgers do pull out the 6-man, I hope it's a true 6-man instead of a 5-man plus a bullpen day. I'm tired of bullpen games. I'm not going to lie. It does. I understand you want to spell the starters, but then you screw unless you're doing it right before an off day where you're traveling, you screw your bullpen up. I just don't like them. I understand where Tampa Bay was coming from, bringing out a high leverage arm early to stifle the offense. It makes sense. I'm just not personally a fan of it. Guys, I think the best thing we can hope for is something like 2023, where Atlanta won 104, ran away with the division, then got quickly knocked out. I think that's the best thing we can hope for with the Dodgers this year, because although unfortunately they did get rid of their getting knocked out in the first round monkey off their back, let's hope that was a one-time thing and we see it again and they go and things kind of equalize back to the mean again, because I wouldn't be upset if that ended up happening in the slightest. God, it's ridiculous what they did. It really is. This honestly, it feels more like me screwing around in franchise mode in the show to make a super team that can go 162-0 than it does real life. So
it's a little nuts. And I think, a lot of this nonsense they're doing is going to force some discussions on a cap. And I don't know that we need a cap in baseball. We've talked about this before. Yeah. A lot of us, I think we all think there needs to be at least a floor for this. Yes.
All right. So just before we head out, Jason, you saw a quick bring out the good. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah. So just saw this update posted, and it's more of just a great update to see. But Wade Boggs has signaled that he is cancer-free and posted a video of him ringing the hospital bell. So that's just some great news for us to end on tonight.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Cancer sucks. All right, guys. So we will be back in 2 weeks on March 3rd. We will be doing the ALNL Central preview. Alex is already logged in. He just asked me to text him the day before because he will inevitably forget. Jason, if you want to email him the Friday before at work, please do. Just to help remind him, because that dude has the worst memory of a smart guy that I've ever met. Did you hear from Todd yet?
Todd would be for the Eastern Division.
Yeah,
he's the best fan. But I have messaged Zach. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I know he was definitely interested in doing it before and coming back on. So as long as he's free, I'm assuming he'll be there.
Awesome.
And so maybe I'll see if I can check in with a couple Pirates fans, see if they want to join us.
Oh, that'd be fun. I love the Pirates. I love their stadium. Hate their owner. Second worst owner in baseball right now. Beautiful park, though. I really hope we're trying to find some time this summer to go out to see a game in Pittsburgh. I really hope we can get the boys out there. They'll love that stadium. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
and the weather is so nice. You don't have all the bugs flying at you like you do up in the Senators Stadium. So. All right, so guys, again, we'll be back March 3rd, and then just to kick the schedule all the way out, the NL-AL East preview episode will be on St. Patrick's Day on the 17th. That's going to be fun. Hopefully we'll have a decent panel. I'm sure Jim's going to want to get back on board for that. Maybe I'll see if I bug Logan now, he can request off in time. It'd be nice to have Logan back on. We didn't get him at all last year because of his work schedule. So we'll have a nice panel for the East and Central, it sounds like. Unfortunately, I think Dave's the only one we know that has any ties at all to either of the West divisions. So sorry for the light panel on this one, but we'll have more full panels moving forward. All right, guys, audio recordings available on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. You see us live on YouTube and Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. All right, guys, we're presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC, sponsored by Whiskey and Blade Barbershop over in Manheim. If you don't want to look like this, do what I'm going to do and go see Johnny later this week and get all of it trimmed up a little bit and looking a little nicer. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good one. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the Central.